Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Natty Cast. And now to your hosts, Tim Barker, Rex Stull, and Ron Thomas.
You said you're picking up your daughter from school. How old is your daughter?
She is 23 months.
Oh,
I thought you were
Thank
ready
you.
to go 23, and I was going to hang on a second.
Like, wait a second.
Wait, but so 24
Got
months,
started late.
that's the cutoff, right? When they turn 2, is that when you stop using months?
I don't know. I'm still learning this stuff.
Oh.
Motherhood is kicking my butt right now.
I thought you were going to say, Ronnie, 24 months is where you have to stop picking them up. They self-sufficient by that point. 2 years kind of set them on their way and go like, you should have this figured out by now. We've been doing this for 2
exactly.
years. So.
Well, it depends on if you come from a large family. Like, I mean, I'm in the youngest of 10, so.
Oh, wow.
At 2 years old, I was like out in the middle of Lynn Street juggling knives. You know.
That's funny.
My dad used to scream down the stairs when Dave and I would fight. He'd scream down there, "I'm not taking anybody to the hospital."
So how long have you been in the Waco area?
Since 2017. So we left New York in 2017.
Okay.
And I started teaching here in the fall of 2017.
Oh, wow.
Did you move there for the job?
Well,
for work?
Yes. Yeah. I think we're recording now. Baylor recruited me out of my PhD program at Rutgers. Yes. So we moved to Waco for Baylor. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what Waco stands for, don't you?
I know a lot of things that Waco stands for. So what do you say it
We
stands for?
ain't coming out.
Oh, Ron.
Jeez
Okay, that's the
Louise.
first piece for the cutting room floor there, Matthew.
Yeah.
I know,
That's-
exactly. And I specifically said I wasn't going to make any jokes about Waco, but
You can.
I
hear
could
them
not.
all
I
the
couldn't
time.
help myself.
Has it been-
But
has it been
Matthew's a great editor.
Has
so.
it been a culture shock at all, kind of landing there, or are you finding it? I guess maybe in the university setting, it's going to be different too than just kind of out. I don't know, with the tumbleweeds.
Whatever word is beyond culture shock.
Oh,
That's what we're experiencing. Like, I came here first, then my husband came here at the top of 2018. And because of my background is in Hollywood, I would describe it as, he's like, so are you getting a feel for the place? And I'm like, Sydney, it's The Wizard of Oz meets Footloose, because they couldn't dance at Baylor's campus until 1995. Plus,
until
Get Out.
1995.
1995.
1995.
Wow. Well, I say let's take it back to where did you grow up in Cincinnati? I'm assuming you were born and raised in Cincinnati?
Mm-mm. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
My parents
Okay.
met. My mom got her master's degree at University of Pittsburgh, and my dad was originally from Pittsburgh, so they met in graduate school there. So I was born in Pittsburgh, and then we moved to Cincinnati, I think, when I was around 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
So I grew up in College Hill, and then once I graduated, my parents moved to Loveland, and now my dad is in somewhere called Maineville, Ohio. I have the faintest idea.
I'm
It's
in New
just
Richmond,
it's
Ohio,
behind
and it would be
Kings
the
Island.
equivalent if you kind of went up north, which is the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Totally the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
And so then how did performing arts get on your radar at living in College Hill?
Sure. My mom was a classically trained pianist and vocalist.
You come from a long
her
line of
family believed-
underachievers, I'm gathering here.
They believed, my mom's family believed in the arts. So my mom grew up in Cincinnati. And she had me doing ballet when I was 2 years old, piano. I mean, she just exposed my brother and me to all kinds of arts. And then, if I know you all remember, when the show Fame came out, I told my mom, I want to do that. I want to go to that school or something like that. And then I auditioned and then got in. So I started performing arts at 8 years old.
So in the fourth grade?
Fifth
grade. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And did your mother, did she study in university as well, study voice? Or did she
No, she just as a young person, because she ended up playing piano for her church. So Gaines United Methodist Church was the church I grew up in Madisonville. That's where my mom grew up. Um, and then she went to Withrow, and then she went to University of Cincinnati. She played tennis at University of Cincinnati, but she didn't do the arts or anything. I was on the College Hill bus with like Tara Patrick and Kara Graves and Missy Lay,
Okay.
all those folks.
Right.
And for those of us who don't know Tara Patrick, she is better known as
Carmen Electra.
Yes.
Did you?
And what year did you graduate? What was your year?
I just say the 90s.
Okay. Copy that. Copy that.
Why is that?
Because I don't tell my age.
Oh, okay.
Ron, when you have doctor in front of your name, you can hide your age too. How's that?
No. Okay. I've been working on an honorary doctorate from somewhere. I don't know who's going to give me one.
I was also just
maybe Tyra will. I mean, you never can tell. You could maybe get one from Baylor down there.
Yeah, and humane letters.
So you went to undergrad at Northwestern?
Yep, I went to film school at Northwestern.
Okay, and were you?
So I have 2 degrees from Northwestern. I have a Bachelor of Science in Radio, TV, and Film, and then I have a certificate in musical theater because it was just easy for me to get. I was the first African-American woman to graduate from their musical theater program. Wow. And after me, Heather Headley came after me. So she was known as the next Tyrha Lindsey on campus. And it's so funny. Every role that Heather did, I was always up for that same role on the West Coast. Even so, I was up for Aida, the Broadway tour. And so I was thinking about transitioning to New York because of Aida. And so Heather got me tickets so I could see her do Aida. So I've never stopped performing.
So, but when when you're at Northwestern, you're in the productions there as part of what you're doing at Northwestern?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then when you graduated, you just decided when you were done at Northwestern, hey, LA's the place for me versus New York, or did you audition and get on a tour? How did that work?
Well, I was really in college trying to pursue my TV producing career. I was in film school, so I did a lot of television and film production. Showtime Networks I worked for in New York, a big production company in Chicago called Central City Productions. I was the first intern with Jerry Springer when they went national because they were in Chicago and I was interning with them in Cincinnati. So I was doing everything. I was pursuing it all. But because I had done New York so much in my lifetime at that point, I said, let's do the Wild Wild West. Let's go to LA. So I was able to get this highly coveted, prestigious fellowship with the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. They're the entity that produces the Emmy Awards. And I was one of their fellows and started my career in children's programming at NBC. So I always say I worked on a lot of shows, at least my students have not heard of, but perhaps you have Saved by the Bell, the second season, and a lot of those other shows I helped manage. And then went to work at CAA, Creative Artists Agency, as an assistant to a motion picture literary agent. And then after that, I spent the bulk of my time working for Quincy Jones, David Salzman Entertainment. And I always say I worked on a lot of films you've never heard of. But we did do Shaquille O'Neal's first action movie, Steel. And when I worked for Quincy and David, we did produce the Oscars in 95, which was fantastic.
Who was the host?
Gosh, I don't even remember. I just remember they considered it one of the most diverse Oscar telecasts ever. Because it was just fantastic. But then I moved to the TV side and worked on the last season of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I worked on Mad TV with LL Cool J. I worked on, In the House with LL Cool J. And I worked on Mad TV, Vibe TV, just a lot of different shows I was able to be on the team to help develop. And then after I left there, I went to work for Babyface and Tracy Edmonds for a quick moment because my friend was helping get their TV and film company started. So I worked on The Post for Soul Food and some other movies, and then started my MBA. And then after that, to answer your original question, I thought I was moving to New York because I was up for Aida as Aida. I was also up for Joanne and Rent on Broadway. And then there was another show. So my agent was like, if you're going to move, now is the time.
And back then, because back then you were live auditioning, you were flying into New York and auditioning, or were they doing auditions around the country for those things, or how did that work?
Initially, they do auditions around the country. And then once you start making these callbacks, you start flying into New York. So I was in my last round of callbacks. And so I got flown to New York. There was like 3 or 4 rounds of callbacks. So I thought, I'm going to be in New York. Let's pick up another degree,
That's incredible.
which would be the PhD in marketing. So that's how I initially started thinking about the PhD. And my mother started her PhD at University of Pittsburgh and never finished. So she was a strong supporter of me getting it too. So that's how the thought happened. That was in the late 90s. That was like in 97, 98, something like that.
The Natty Cast is supported by Mad Cheese. Mad Cheese is a completely plant-based, dairy-free cheese and charcuterie shop located in Madisonville. The owners, Cincinnati natives Heather and Reggie Donaldson, handcraft over 30 different plant-based cheeses and meats in their commercial production kitchen behind the storefront. You're invited to stop in and sample the wide array of products, book a curated tasting, or sign up for the new subscription box program, which will feature an exclusive new cheese every month with recipes and board building tutorials. For more, head to Instagram and Facebook at Mad Cheese Cincy or go to www.madcheese.com. And with that, back to the show.
City-wise, were you gravitating to anything? Did you love LA? Did you love that environment? Or East Coast, West? What was that all about?
I mean, when I was in LA, I had a great time. It was a wonderful time for African Americans in TV. We had so many shows.
Right.
The Wayans Brothers, In the House, Living Color, our shows, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Mad TV. There were just so many shows. Martin.
Sure.
So many shows. So during that time, shows usually taped on Thursdays and Fridays, and it was just like party central, at the different studios, during that time. So being a part of Black Hollywood was fantastic. Moesha.
Yeah, I mean, you really think, now that
shows.
you've reeled them off, I mean, you realize it really was kind of the golden age of television for that. And to be fair, I don't know that it certainly doesn't exist like that today, I suppose, but I also don't think television exists like that today, right? The whole landscape has changed so much as far as, the number of shows like that are on the air even. I mean, so many reality TV shows now and things like that versus, scripted comedy, a lot of the things, comedy and things like that you were listing.
It's unfortunate. I think there should be equity, across the board.
Of course.
But, yeah, you're right. It was a great time. So I had a really good time when I lived in Los Angeles, and I was still singing. I mean, my mom said I never slept when I was in LA because I was a background singer for the China Club. And everybody came through there. I was just telling somebody, I remember singing backup for Billy Preston,
Wow.
Bobby Brown,
Yeah.
Black Stars, White Stars, everybody.
So they would just come in and you almost like a house, almost like a house group of backup singers would perform with them?
Yeah, I was a part of the house band.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It was crazy because my roommate took me, we went to see somebody. And somehow we were close enough to the stage where the stage manager was like, so-and-so's not coming to sing tonight. And my roommate at the time said, my roommate can sing. My roommate can fill in. And I don't look like I'm dressed to sing. I look like I just came from work, you know, at Quincy Jones or whatever. And this she looked like one of the Judds, the woman who was like the head singer. She had red hair, and I guess Mama Judd. She said, "What's your name?" And I'm in the audience, Tyrha. And she's like, "Come on up." And I came on up and started singing.
Wow. That's great.
But I mean, you know, I had been singing jazz forever. I mean, I was in a jazz ensemble in Northwestern. I did Sophisticated Ladies at SCPA and just kept singing jazz. So I have great improvisational skills. And even in college, I sang. I mean, just, I've never stopped singing. So I fit in. I just, you know, did the alto part and harmonized, and I was good to go. And at the end of the night, she's like, "You're good. Okay, I'll see you next week." I said, "Okay."
Wow. Okay. Now, what type of music? So she was a jazz singer?
No, the China Club was R&B, pop, rock. I mean, I was singing everything. I sang background for everything.
Well, I would say that was a good way to build your chops, but it sounds like the chops are already built. They're already there. You're just displaying them.
So how do you end up there in Baylor? I'm just trying to track this in my mind. You know, how do you get from, you know, singing backup at the time, which is, by the way, the most awesome job I think I've ever heard of. I mean, I know about house bands, but I never heard of house backup singers, especially in a place like that. I think that's fantastic.
I mean, when I was in LA, I was doing everything. I was trying to become a star, right? Whether it was a star, studio executive, that's what I was being trained for by day, or a star by night, because I had record deals. I even helped negotiate the 98 Degrees deal when they were with, when they first got signed with Andre Harrell. Nick Lachey, who was my partner in music theater.
I was going to say, you must have known them from school, right?
Yeah. He was my partner in music theater for a couple of years. So it was Todd Loizo first, then he graduated, and then Nick Lachey was my partner for the next 2 years. And we were all in LA together, and Nick is like, "Can you look over this contract?" And I said, "Okay." So they all, you know, came to my apartment. But yeah, I was trying to make the dream come true. And I did a lot of things in both lanes. But how did I get to Baylor? Once I got to New York, and again, I was doing fantastic things. I was director of marketing for the United States Tennis Association, PR director for Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, senior executive at a major advertising company in LA called Uniworld Group. And then my mother got sick. She got diagnosed with multiple myeloma while I was at the ad agency. And we went all over for her care. She was a teacher in the Cincinnati public school system for probably over 40 years. And we were at Dana-Farber Institute initially for her care. And she got a stem cell transplant there. And then her care got transferred to New York Presbyterian. And she ended up living with me for a while. And so when she first came to live with me and I had to take her to the emergency room, I remember us sitting on her bed because we were waiting for the doctors to come in. And I was like, "Mom, I don't have any of this stuff like you have." And she's like, "What?" I said, "I don't have a pension. I don't have good insurance." I mean, when you go into these artsy fartsy spaces, you don't necessarily get compensated like you should. So my mom said, "Well, you've always wanted to get your PhD. You've always wanted to retrain. Why don't you start researching it?" And that's when I started researching it. And then 2 years later, I started my PhD program. So that's how I ended up getting to Baylor, but all the while still performing, still using both sides of my brain.
Are you still doing that today? Are you performing at all today?
Yeah. My husband and I last year, well, I mean, I've done, let me go back. When I first got to Waco, I told myself I'm coming to Waco to be normal, right? I don't want
what's that?
to do any of what I was doing in LA and New York, right? I'm married now, working on having a child. I just want to be normal, right? That lasted a month because my office manager here in the marketing department at Baylor ended up hearing me or heard that I could sing or sang jazz, or she Googled me, something. And so we went out to a jazz night or something at this local hotel, the Hilton. And she ends up telling the guys, hey, let my friend Tyrha sit in with you.
Just while they're having drinks or like, something, what? Listening to the band, she throws you up on stage.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what you sang?
I always sing the same thing. Thank goodness nobody ever comes with me to the different places, but I always end up singing Duke Ellington, Don't Mean a Thing, because it's an easy thing. Everybody knows it. So I sat in with the band and I sang that, and they're like, oh, do another one. I said, wait a minute. This is your gig, not my gig. You gonna pay me for the second one. So I did not sing another one, but then a month later they called me to ask me to be the featured soloist for the Waco Jazz Orchestra annual fundraiser. That was in the spring of 2018, and that was fantastic. That was me and a 25-piece jazz band for 2 hours.
Wow.
And that was a dream come true.
That's awesome.
And we did all kinds of songs, everything. And so I've been, singing ever since, with a couple of guys. Actually, everyone pretty much has moved here from New York around the same time that I got here. It's called the Waco Jazz Collective. And so I've been singing with them probably since 2018. And then last year, January 23rd, my husband and I opened a wine bar in downtown Texas, Waco, in the heart of downtown Waco. And we have live jazz on the weekends. I do the marketing, I do all the programming. So depending on the band that I program, every now and then I'll sit in with the band.
What's the name of the spot?
Marie's Wine Bar.
Awesome.
That's because you guys were bored. Yeah, apparently. I mean, clearly there's nothing else going on, so why not just open up a business? I think it's great.
I know.
Well, thank you. I mean, when we got here, I know you guys have heard of that Mark Twain saying, when Mark Twain says, when I die, I want to be in Cincinnati because Cincinnati's 20 years behind the rest of the world. Well, consider Waco 30 or 40 years behind the rest of the world.
When you're done in Cincinnati, head down to Waco because you still got another 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, you'll still get another, we'll wring another 20 years out of it.
You could look at it like that too. But seriously, when I got here, folks weren't coming together. The African Americans, I was learning, did not cross this particular bridge, the Brazos River Bridge. The Latinx community was kind of like in this pocket, and Caucasians were everywhere else. And coming from New York, I'm just not used, in LA, Chicago, just was not used to segregation.
Yeah.
Like that in 2017. And so I was like, what can I do to maybe help? So I initially started a film festival here in 2020 because I'd been producing international film festivals since 2012. Started out with Bishop T.D. Jakes. I did the first Over the Rhine International Film Festival in 2018. So I understood the power of storytelling. My dissertation was on storytelling, specifically empowered storytelling within a marketing advertising context. And so I brought my film festival here to try to bring people together, all socioeconomic levels, education, And it worked in 2020. It happened in February, right before the world shut down. And next month we'll be in our 6th year. But to go back to your question, Rex, regarding the wine bar, I'm continuing to say that I'm super proud of, that wine bar, because when I got to Waco, there was no place for someone who looked like me to go and have a glass of wine and feel comfortable, right? People look at me crazy.
Yeah.
And so at least I'm so proud that we have a Cheers, like, wine bar, upscale wine bar setting where people who look like me or people who are Latinx, people who are Indian, Asian, whoever, can come to our wine bar, have a fantastic wine discovery experience, meet your neighbors, laugh, listen to some great music, and be welcomed.
Do you feature any kind of specific wines or regions, or from all over the world, or California? Or
my husband does all that. So there's wines from all over the world, ever changing, because we have these wine dispensing machines that are just fantastic and deadly all at the same time.
No.
But yeah, we have wine from all over the world, essentially. And then
some Cincinnati wines in there. Cincinnati being, known the world over for wine.
Oh,
well, it is. Remember, that's how it got the name the Queen City. That was from,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Catawba wine. It was, Longfellow wrote a poem called Ode to Catawba Wine because he enjoyed the wine here so much. Well, Vine Street, that's how Vine Street got its name. But remember, the last stanza of that poem is, and the song of the vine, this greeting of mine, the wind and the birds shall deliver to the Queen of the West and her garlands dressed on the banks of the beautiful river. And that's what Ohio means, beautiful river.
Mm-hmm.
Mic drop, Ron.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Really?
And the garland the garland's dressed refers to the vines up along Vine Street. And you got to remember back then, Cincinnati was the West. So the Queen of the West. And that's how the name Queen City was attached to Cincinnati.
Love it.
Wow.
So get some Catawba wine out there in the in Marie's Wine Bar in Waco.
Yeah, I have to ask Sydney about it. Sydney's from Cincinnati, too.
I thought you were going to go Manischewitz or something because that started here, but you've gone a whole different route on this one. So.
Where and when did you meet your husband, Tyrha?
When I came back from LA to Cincinnati in 2000, we think we met then at J. Alexander's in Rookwood.
Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm. He has a great story. He's 6'7", full of life, and he tells it really well. Like she saw me across a crowded room at J. Alexander's and blah 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 blah. I don't remember it like that.
We're all the star.
Duke Ellington was playing on the jukebox.
But he tells it well. He gives you a good laugh.
I always like to say we're always the star of our own movies, right? When you're telling those kind of stories, you're like, let me just tell you how this went down.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But it's entertaining when he tells it. So I let him tell it. But he actually used to live downtown on Mound Street, across the street from my mother's school. My mother taught at Washburn forever, and then it turned into Hayes Porter Elementary School and over the Rhine. And it's so funny, when 9/11 happened, I had him go across the street to my mother's school to tell her I was okay. And 9/11 was crazy, whatever. But after we got married in 2014, the three of us, because my mother was still living with me at the time, went to the 9/11 museum and we recorded our story on the storybook, part of the museum in the basement. So that was kind of a cool story to be able to tell what happened, where we were on 9/11, and that I was just dating him at the time, and fast forward years later, we're married.
Wow!
Did you all get married in Cincinnati?
Mm-hmm. At the Netherlands Hotel. Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice!
That's a great location.
The Natty Cast would like to take this opportunity to tell you about Red Oak Animal Rescue. It is a local nonprofit animal sanctuary right here in the Cincinnati area. If you're looking for a good way to give back to your community and see some cute animals on your feed all at the same time, please head over to Red Oak Animal Rescue on Instagram or Facebook, or check them out at their website, redoakanimalrescue.com. The best way to support Red Oak Animal Rescue is to check out the Patreon page and sign up for a monthly subscription, or click the link to check out some of their adorable merch. Once again, the Natty Cast is very happy to support Red Oak Animal Rescue, and with that, back to the show.
All right. Now, okay, so Cincinnati, formative years here, and we know how it's changed now. But even back then, Cincinnati's kind of always had these two sides to it. Now, do you think your time here did anything to prepare you to live in some of these other cities, big cities, small cities, things like that?
I mean, of course, Cincinnati prepared me for the rest of my life. I always say, I got the best training at performing arts. I mean, the best training artistically and, educationally, because I have always soared and shined every place I've gone to after I left Cincinnati. So I'm going to say it's because of my training there.
Well, I like, I think all of us benefited. I mean, we all in some form or another work in the business we're in because of it. But one of the things that I always took away from it too was just the fully kind of integrated setting. I mean, it was unusual. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, we graduated in the 80s, right? The three of us graduated in 86. And they always used to tell us, when you go out in the world, it's going to be different. And I always just kind of thought, oh, well, that's just your version of it. When we go out in the world now, the world is different. And then I arrived in that world and I realized it really wasn't that different. And you just described arriving in Waco and finding this kind of segregated community. And for me, I think the integration at the school and from both racially, but also economically, we were from all over the city. I just think it really helped because you were put into this place where you were defined more by your talent or what you could do versus what you looked like necessarily or where you came from. I didn't know if you felt the same way about that as far as programming you from an early age, and then what you found when you ventured out into the world.
I would agree with you 200%, Rex. Once I got to Northwestern, my freshman year, I was breaking records, right? I got into this really famous show called WAMU that Charleston Heston and all kinds of famous people were alumni of. And it was unheard of to get in this show as a freshman and to have like a featured solo and some other things. And I'm African American. I think there were only, out of a cast of 35, there were only maybe 3 of us who were African American in the cast. So all of that was unheard of at Northwestern.
Yeah.
My freshman year. And I had sorority sisters because I also pledged AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha my freshman year. And I had sorority sisters who were told, don't go see Tyrha in that racist show. And they would look at them like, what are you talking about? So I'm saying yes. When I got to Northwestern, it was very polarized, but I didn't care. I was going to get all I could get out of that experience.
Was Northwestern your dream school? Like, was that the place you knew when you had graduated high school that's where you wanted to go?
No, I thought I wanted to go to a top film school. So it was either UCLA, USC, NYU, something like that. And,
right.
and Northwestern was in the grouping. But what happened in Cincinnati, I used to dance with at this studio called Lynn Studio with Andy, so the choreographer of In the Heights and Hamilton and all this stuff. We all studied at the same studio. We all danced at and performed at Kings Island, all that kind of stuff. So one of the young ladies in that studio was going to Northwestern. I was still maybe in my sophomore year, freshman year. And we went to study and meet her in Chicago one summer at Giordano's. We studied at Giordano's. And we drove past the campus. I'm like, oh, beautiful. And she's like, oh, you're not Northwestern material. You can't go there. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Well, I don't even know what that means. Yeah. What does Northwestern material mean?
That I wasn't, capable or what have you. And so then I started investigating Northwestern when she said that, because I don't like people telling me no. I don't like people telling me I
heard that.
So
right.
Now we know why you went to Northwestern. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right.
Well, and also, too, I ended up transferring from performing arts my senior year because I got into Dreamgirls with Oba Babatunde at La Comedia Dinner Theater. And Mr. Dickinson and Mr. Loiza wouldn't let me go. And my mom was like, Are you crazy? All the money she's made for this school, you're not gonna let her. So I transferred to Aiken actually my senior year because they would let me go to do the show. And I was third at performing arts in my class, came into Aiken, third in my class at Aiken. And the counselor there even said, so what are you looking at college? This old fat dude. I was like, I'm looking at Northwestern. I think that's my top choice amongst some others. And he tells me I'm not Northwestern material.
Oh my!
My God!
Come on!
Are you kidding?
A guidance counselor would say something like that to a student.
He told all the Black kids at Aiken to go to UC, Xavier, or if you're really striving, strive for Ohio State.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God!
And I said, "Are you kidding me, sir?"
Right.
And he's like, "Well, I went to Loyola. Come to find out, Loyola and Northwestern alum. It's like this because Loyola is right down the street, so to speak, from Northwestern." Yeah. And I said, well, because you don't think I'm Northwestern material, I'm going to apply early decision. And I got in. So I was the first senior to find out where I was going to college.
Yeah. Did you shove that acceptance letter up his, I'm sorry, did you show him the acceptance letter?
Oh, I showed him that and much more.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
You told him you're number one in my book.
Yeah.
With that.
What shows were you in Kings Island when you worked there?
I did the summer rhythm show for 3 summers.
Was that in
in the big house, right?
Mm-mm.
Was it
Alton, and they were all in the big house.
I don't remember the
was
shows.
On the porch across from the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, that one.
In the little stage.
Yeah, the little.
Was it Showplace? International
Showplace?
No.
It was
a little
bandstand,
right?
Yeah.
Little bandstand, and then they ended up moving it my third summer to somewhere else. But,
wow. Okay.
But we had a great time.
Yeah.
It was a great show.
Ron and I both worked at Kings Island back in the day too. So
I just ate slices of pizza there. Did you so I mean it's so impressive, Tyrha. Like is there another degree that you want on top of this? Is there another mountain? I mean, like when it comes to degrees, because that's incredible.
I think you need a law degree.
I mean, I wanted to get my JD MBA, but Claremont didn't have a law school. I may sit in on some law classes while I'm here since they're free, because I do a lot of contracting.
She's been doing contract law since her 98 degrees days. We've established that.
I really have. No, I'm not getting any more degrees. I have one. I call myself being in the dream making business. Mm-hmm. I have worked to make my dreams come true. I help other people make their dreams come true, whether they're my mentees or whatever the case may be. So once my daughter was born, which was such a dream, at least for me, because it took 10 years to kind of just have a really successful pregnancy. So I have one more dream that I'm working on. I've been producing these series of books by New York Times bestselling authors Virginia DeBerry and Donna Grant, and that's the last thing that I'm working on.
Book publishing is your last frontier is book publishing after you've done all the rest of this?
No, turning their books into TV and film properties.
Nice.
I got it. Do you get back to Cincinnati often?
Yeah, I mean, I produced the last 3 years of the Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame.
Oh wow!
By the way, that is fantastic down there. I love it.
Thank you.
I mean, really, I didn't know that, but it's I send people when they're in town and staying when have business. I say make sure you just take a walk down there and go through it. Everybody's amazed by it, so it's really impressive.
Yeah, Commissioner Reese is a friend. She was in my wedding. So I have a whole marketing agency called Lindsey and Associates International Communications, LAI Communications for short, full service, marketing ad agency, so to speak. So she brought us on board in 2021, and we did the 2022 induction ceremony, and then we did the big grand opening in 2023, and that was for like 8,000 people. So we opened that thing. We did everything for it. So that was kind of the last time we were home because the baby was born in 2023.
Right.
So probably last year was the first year we weren't home in Cincinnati for a while, but we'll probably get back there this year.
I'd like to ask each guest also if there is a sports uniform of a Cincinnati team. It can be whatever it is that you would rock, Reds, Bengals, FC. It could even go back to the Royals, Oscar Robertson. I don't know. But who would you, what jersey would you wear and what player?
Definitely Bengals. Probably Icky Woods because he's a family friend.
Nice.
And he was at our wedding.
Awesome.
Oh, Icky was in your wedding?
He was at the wedding.
He was at the wedding,
Yeah.
Okay. But when's the film festival?
February 20th through the 22nd.
So it's coming up. How can people kind of, look at that online?
Go to wacofilmfest.org.
wacofilmfest.org.
Sweet.
Yeah, so it's great. I call ourselves the Sundance of the family and faith space. Like Sundance, we do concerts, we do this, we do that. It doesn't feel like you're in Waco that particular weekend.
And the wine bar. We're going to plug the wine bar too. What was the wine bar's name?
Yeah.
Marie's Wine Bar. And I was trying to say when we were talking about it that on Saturday we opened up our first restaurant at the Waco Regional Airport, and that's called Marie's Bistro.
Nice.
I don't know where you find the time.
Stop. I know we have a heart out, but hang on. So a bistro and the wine bar now.
Yes. My husband used to own the TCBY Mrs. Fields, restaurant or whatever,
Yeah, so
in
he's
the
a
B
franchisee,
terminal
yeah.
in
Okay.
Delta for forever. And then he owned a TCBY in the Philadelphia airports. He did this for about 20 years before we got married. So this is the airports is his
Gotcha. Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
And we won the contract by the city of Waco last spring to bring this restaurant concept to the Waco
Outstanding.
Regional Airport. They just renovated it. We're the only restaurant there.
Well, Marie's Wine Bar, soon to be featuring Cincinnati wines.
Okay.
No?
All of us will be taking a trip to Waco when the Bearcats are playing Baylor for the Big 12 championship.
Okay, yes. In like 10 years.
That's right. We have some work to do, but yeah, we'll work on it.
The NattyCast is proudly brought to you by Paco Lago Productions. The show is hosted by Tim Barker, Rex Stull, and Ron Thomas. Produced and edited by Matthew Lake and associate produced by Ethan Spanja. Special thanks to Sadie Kern at Pop Gun Flow for the graphics and to Brando Triantafilu for the original theme song. Feel free to follow us at _NattyCast on Instagram or head to our website, thenattycast.com. You can get this show wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next time.